Stand by to fall in, Polk County. This is today's veteran. Hello and welcome, and on behalf of everyone at the Polk County Office of Veteran Services, thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Tim Kirkhart, and on this installment of Today's Veteran, we chat with Dr. Bruce Kotke and Gina Cox about the Homeless Veterans Summit, but we start off today's show with a look at Tienvika Riding Academy. Founded in 2005 by Roger and Sarah Meadows, Tienvika Riding Academy is a center which physically, mentally, and emotionally challenged individuals receive educational, recreational, and therapeutic riding activities. Joining us in studio is Sarah Meadows to talk about the program and her efforts with veterans. Sarah, welcome to Today's Veteran.
Thank you, Tim. It's nice to be here.
Tell me a little bit about the background of your academy, how it came to be, and your involvement.
We started basically working with special needs children. We had a friend who had a child who was shaken as a baby, and she was looking for therapy for him. There was no center in Polk County. There's a center in Orlando and one in Tampa. So we went into detail about what to do to get involved with an organization that would work with special needs children and adults. We began that in 2005, and in 2009 we became we found out through Tamara Pascal over at the VA in Tampa about the needs for veterans and a program that was starting with the veterans called Wounded Warrior Program. And that's how we became involved with the Wounded Warriors with the veterans.
Tell us a little bit about that. How did that progress? Well,
we first started with having Ms. Pascal send veterans over to us. So they would go to her, and she's part of the sports center over at the VA at the Haley VA, and she would send them to us if they were interested in horseback riding. So we've seen veterans with different types of disability. We right now have two veterans. One is able-bodied. Both of them are able-bodied. One is able to do and follow direction. The other one we need to help him along. We became involved simply by talking to her and seeing what the needs of the veterans were. And by finding out that there wasn't a center like that here in Polk County, we went ahead and got involved with the Wounded Warrior Program, and then we had new veterans coming in through them. We've been at it since 2009, and then we've started basically with Tampa, and then we tried to incorporate Lakeland, and that's, I guess that's where you got your information from.
Right. So how does a veteran, or the two veterans that you have, how did they actually get to you? Did the VA at James A. Haley, the sports medicine, they sent them to you or recommended, or is it a requirement? Or?
They're recommended, basically. We've had quite a few other veterans come in, and we have open house every first Thursday of the month for the veterans to come in. So we've had a lot of them come in. The biggest problem that they're finding is that the transportation for them to come for any type of therapy, I believe it's like there's a radius of from where they live to where they have to go. So basically, they're not able to make that trip over to us. The two that we have that come in are actually coming in from Brandon and Tampa. We also had another gentleman coming in from Tampa who had to stop because of the transportation problems. But basically, they will go to the Haley VA to Ms. Pascal, and she would basically give them the information about who we are. And if they're interested in what we do, then she would just call us and let us know, hey, there's this veteran who wants to come over. They're going to be there on this day, and we expect them. And we basically have that Thursday is dedicated to veterans. That's all we do on Thursdays at the barn. It's all veterans. That's basically what the day is for.
Do does the Department of Veterans Affairs, do they pay for the service? I mean, how does that work?
No, sir. It is a free service. This is a program that is free to all veterans. We do have the veterans that are coming in from the recent wars, and that those are they can go through the Wounded Warrior program, and for 10 lessons, we get a payment for them. But it doesn't mean that they can only come in those 10 lessons. After that, if they're willing to stay, they can stay. It's basically free. It's free of charge to all veterans. It's never been something that they had to pay for.
Tell us where your facility is and maybe a little bit of the layout and how it works for somebody to come in and ride.
Okay. We are located here in Bartow, basically off of Highway 60. If you're familiar with where the Sheriff's Youth Ranch is on Highway 60, we basically have their barn lease to do our programs. So we're on their property, but we have our own entrance. There we have 18 horses. Right now, the two veterans that have the two horses that we use are Doodle and Blackfoot. We had two other horses that we used with the other veterans that were there before. It is something that the veterans decide to come in and do as they please. We don't have like a regiment for them to do. You know, we do expect them to learn to ride the horses and take care of the horses, but they don't have to ride the horses. I had a couple that came in and all they did was groom their horses, and that was what was working for them. They come in with depressions, and the whole working with the horse and grooming the horse and spending time with the horse seems to help calm them and get that out of their system. And that's what this couple did. So then the two that we have now are riders. So we have a young lady who comes in and she rides independently. So when she first came in, she had not been out of her house for, I want to say, I think it was 10 years, literally. She states that. She had not been out of the house for about 10 years. And this is the one thing that she enjoys because she's built that relationship with the horse and with the people around her. The other gentleman, he comes in all the time too, but you talk to him and sometimes you'll get a response and sometimes you won't. But you know that he enjoys what he's doing because he's got the biggest smile on his face when you ask him how he's doing. He's not very verbal, but by his whole body language. And according to his wife, it helps him relax. He seems to be more at ease when he gets home after he does the lessons. They're done by certified instructors through PATH, which is the Professional Association for Therapeutic Riding. And we basically work with whatever they bring us. I mean, whatever you want to, the goal is you come in and let us know what your goals are. What do you want to accomplish with this? And then we take it from there and work on that. And if you're able to get to that step, we go on to the next step. It's basically very much laid back to whatever it is that individual needs at that time.
So the VA doesn't come in and say, this veteran needs to do this or that or the other? It's
no,
all,
sir. No.
Okay, it's all determined then?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How can others be involved in the program?
We've asked a lot of the leadership to look out for volunteers. The whole veteran community, they feel more at ease when they're amongst themselves. So we try to, that day, to just have adults there that know the background and that the other writers that are coming in feel comfortable with. So anybody can get involved volunteering. You don't need to have horse experience. I don't have horse experience till I started working with horses. So you just need to show up and be willing to help, be willing to lend a hand to somebody. That's basically what we're there for. We're there to help them along to whatever they need and make them feel comfortable and welcome.
So what would you say the therapeutic part of it is for a disabled veteran? Is it usually just mental state?
There's a mental state, definitely. But there's also the physical. If we had a rider who was in a wheelchair, and when he came in, the whole movement of the horse will help with the body, the lower, your hips and all that, because the movement of the horse kind of moves the same way that you do. So there was a movement there that he had stopped because he was in a wheelchair. And when he's on the horse, then he gets that whole sensation of that movement again. So it's a little bit of both. A lot of it is emotional because that's what we're seeing, but some of it is it's therapeutic for their beings.
Tell us, again, how do the veterans get to the sessions? Is that something that VA provides, or?
They can come into the barn at any time. We do have a website. They can go on the website and get information as to where we are. You can call the office and stop at the barn anytime, and we will show you what we do, and we will let you know. Thursdays is the day that we service the veterans, and you can come in any Thursday and we'll work with you.
Well, listen, Sarah, I want to thank you for joining us today on Today's Veteran.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. And for you folks at home, if you need more information on the Tenvika Riding Academy, you can give Sarah a call at 888-548-2972 or look them up on the web at tenvika.org. The Wounded Warrior Amputee Softball Team, WWAST, is a 501c3 charitable organization whose mission is to raise awareness, educate, and inspire the public about the strength and resiliency of our wounded warriors. The team was in town recently for a game against All-Stars from a recent tournament held here in Polk County. Here are the sights and sounds of the game.
I was on my second tour to Afghanistan. It was June 2nd, 2010. I was in southern Afghanistan, the Arghandab River Valley. I was running a routine night patrol. 2:30 in the morning, we were done, and we were gonna head back to the house to get some sleep. And I was on top of a building with my team. I jumped down off the building to clear out, make sure everything was safe before we started our exfil. On my way back to pull my guys off the building, stepped on a landmine. Got blown about 10 feet in the air, 10 feet back. Lost the front half of my right foot, took some shrapnel on my left leg and upper right arm. And you know, get up, start needing medical care. I get medevaced out to Kandahar Airfield. Undergo my first surgery, get stabilized. I lost a lot of blood, so they couldn't stop my bleeding, so I was getting in a bad way real quick. Got stabilized, woke up next morning. I knew what had happened to me. I knew my foot was gone. So I get medevaced to Germany. Go from Germany to Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. and I get hit June 2nd, I get there June 6th. I underwent my final surgery June 10th and got sewed up, decided what amputation we were going to go with, and started working out, trying to get my life back. I wanted to get, I was an athlete before, started doing all this. Played baseball in college, football in high school, and wanted to get back to my normal lifestyle that I had. Well, we're all athletes before injury happened, and I always say it gives us a second chance to be athletes again. This is the #1 sport in America, believe it or not, as far as recreation goes. Everybody has a softball team, and to be able to travel around the nation with a group of guys that have gone through the same hell that you went through with rehab, because when you're learning how to walk, run, do normal activities on a prosthetic leg, it's hell. You have to redo everything in your life. You have to learn how to run again, walk again, let alone trying to get out here and play competitive ball against only able-bodied teams. So it's very rewarding to get out here and do this. And you never know when your last out's going to be played. So one thing you see with this team is that we just go balls out as hard as we can every single inning, every single out. And it's very rewarding to be able to do this, and it's great to send a nice message to people, and it's great to see a good story coming out of the wars with all the news media and things like that. It's a lot of negative, and I think we're a very bright spot in that, and a great comeback story. One of the greatest things that we do with this team is we're finally in a position to give back. Is we do a disabled sports kids camp every year with 20 kids that are amputees as well, because there's a lot of kids out there that I was not aware of until I became one that are amputees. And so what we do is bring them in, we go to a different spot every year, bring 20 kids in, their families, and for a week we teach them how to play ball. And, they make friends, because there were 19 other kids that are the exact same as them. And that's probably the most humbling thing I think I've seen as far as being on this team and being a part of this organization is at the end of the week, the kids play a game 10-on-10 against each other, and they take the field, in a Major League Stadium, and if you got a dry eye when they do that, it gets me every time. And we have the best fans in the nation. We don't have a home field because we're all from all over the place. So wherever we go, we just kind of adopt the fans there, and we always pack the seats. Everybody's just warm and welcoming to us, and I think it's a wonderful thing. It's very humbling to take the field and see the support that we get, and it makes you play hard. I will say it makes you play hard, and it puts things in perspective for you. We're lucky. There are a lot of our brothers and sisters that didn't make it home, that had a similar accidents happen to us, and they're in the ground, and you just live life as you get a second chance of life, and we got a second chance to be an athlete, so you take advantage of it every day. And to play ball is just amazing. It's my favorite thing in the world to do. I really do. I just love being out there, and I can speak for all the 10 guys you'll see tonight that they just love playing out here. And you never think you're going to be able to do this again. Let alone, it's hard enough to play this thing on all your body parts, let alone come out here and play on a fake one. And to see what we can do is really something special. And I cherish every minute I'm out there. I really do. I absolutely eat, sleep, and breathe this sport.
Welcome back to Today's Veteran. I'm your host, Tim Kirkhart, and in an effort to better understand the magnitude of homeless veterans within the community leaders and military organizations came together to analyze ways to better meet their needs. Gina Cox with Polk County Board of County Commissioners and Dr. Bruce Kotke with, he actually spent a lot of time at the Mayo Clinic, and he serves as a volunteer. He joins us to give us an update on the progress of the summit. Welcome to Today's Veteran. Gina, tell us about the purpose of the Homeless Veterans Summit.
The Social Services Division of Polk County Board of County Commissioners identified that there certainly was a need in the community, and we decided that the best way to reach the agencies that can best help the homeless veterans was through a summit. And we brought these organizations together for the first time. In the past, the social service agencies have serviced our veterans, and the veteran organizations have, but never before have they come together to do it as a combined effort. And that was the real purpose. And we were wanting the needs of our homeless veterans to be met within the next 12 to 24 months.
Okay, I know there's an effort with the VA to end homeless veterans. I think sometime in this year. Do you have an opinion on that? Is it going to be done, or I know it's a big job?
I think we all would love to see every veteran in a safe, secure place every night. So I think that's everybody's goal, and we would love to be able to say that yes, we could do that. And that's what Polk County's effort for the summit was.
And this is a good start for that effort.
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you tell me some of the agencies and organizations that were there that day?
Yes. Well, we had the pleasure of having Daniel Webster speak for us, a regional representative from the Veteran Administration was there. Locally, we had Clark's House, which is the only nonprofit in the county currently receiving grant funding, which the county was able to assist them in securing their first year of funding, and they have been able to secure a second year of funding and also secure multiple other funding sources for veterans. We're there. Homeless Coalition, of course, was there. Salvation Army, USDA, Peace River, Tri-County. Our major social service organizations were there. And then, of course, there was a great showing of American Legions and VFW posts also there.
The floor was opened for questions, and there was a panel up there, and that got a little lively.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
And that was nice to see. I mean, it really was nice. I think that's when we really saw that the social service organizations and the veteran organizations really didn't realize how much each other was doing for the veterans, and that they had other resources to go to. They've typically stuck within their little circles, and this really opened the door. Matter of fact, several of the posts came to the table to help in the homeless count this year, I believe is correct.
Yeah. When did it take place?
That was September 9th, and the Winter Haven American Legion post gave us the place. They gave us their building that day, and we were very grateful for that.
Yeah.
And that was a great location for us.
Okay, so since September 9th, what are some of the post-summit activities that you know of, or things that have happened to help the homeless situation?
Well, I know that multiple veteran organizations have reached out to myself. I do write grants for the county, and they're looking to bring more grant funding into the county by being the applicants. The county can only apply for certain things. Most of the time it requires nonprofits in the community. So it certainly opened the door, but prior to September 9th, only Clark's House was the nonprofit asking for veterans money. I know that we've had meetings with USDA on how they can help through their grant funding to service our homeless veterans. And I know that the veteran organizations have really stepped up to the plate in trying to connect our homeless veterans with the social service agencies. And we're always looking for a way to better transport our veterans.
All right, and that's an issue now with the bus referendum and things like that. I know that's a scramble right now.
Yes.
Can you tell us anything about that?
Yes, I know that our funding for the veteran transportation program is looking at going away, and that we're actively and aggressively looking at other ways to financially fund that through supporters in the community and also grant funding.
Dr. Kotke, tell us about your background and how you fit into this homeless situation.
Well, I was a consultant up at the Mayo Clinic for about 30 years, and then because my wife's from Puerto Rico, and she insisted I retired down here in Florida. And I worked at Watson Clinic for about 5 years doing primarily lipids and vascular disease, and then I worked with heart and artery for a while doing general internal medicine. It's sort of regressing from specialization to generalization. And in the process for about 5-6 years, I've been a volunteer running a diabetes clinic at Lakeland Volunteers in Medicine. And there I saw the problem of some of the homeless and indigent patients quite a bit. And in the process there, I found that there were simpler ways to treat diabetes using modern drugs. And it turns out now that those drugs have become generic, so they are readily available. So I'm trying to get them to use the drugs that control the diabetes very simply. And this is applicable to the veterans and to the indigent patients, and actually would save the government an enormous amount of money by using this instead of the older generic drugs which do not control the diabetes very well.
How would you go about convincing an organization like the VA that there is a better way of doing something? I mean, how would you, as a medical doctor, approach that?
I have not been able to make contact with the formulary, because all they have to do is change the formula of the drugs, and it would change things enormously in diabetes. Janina and I have written at least 3 grants trying to get funding to do this. We have not been successful in getting funded yet, but we've been trying to get funding for it to address this problem, both for the veterans and for the indigent people. But it's been a long, hard. I am now on a committee of the American Cardiology that is trying to work new diabetes guidelines, so we're working on that end. And from some other of my former contacts, I'm trying to maneuver in this situation. It's hard to get people to change their minds because they're in a rut and using The sulfonylureas, which are the old drugs for diabetes, they give lousy control, cause hypoglycemia, and actually aggravate coronary disease. The new drugs, which are now generic, reduce the risk of coronary disease enormously. You never cause hypoglycemia, and actually are simpler to do because it's 1 shot of insulin a day rather than 4 or 5 shots a day for people who need a lot of insulin. So it's a simple way to do it. It's so obvious to me that it's a way that has reduced costs. We went to the county. I tried to convince them to change their formulary. We were not successful in doing that so far. I would certainly hope we were able to do it because I think it would save the county enormous amounts of money and make much better care. Because now the diabetes is one of the major reasons for people coming to the emergency rooms, which loads them up, and they do not have the proper formulary there to get the proper care of diabetes.
Is diabetes rampant amongst homeless people in general and veterans?
It's rampant in Polk County in general. In fact, Polk County has one of the highest instances of type 2 diabetes in the country. And the hospital admissions for uncontrolled diabetes are one of the highest in the county. There's a Healthy Tampa Bay website that gives these figures, and it's a big problem in Polk County, and I don't think being addressed as aggressively as it should.
He mentioned some grants that you were trying to get. Are those federal grants? Or?
Yes, those are federal. They've been research grants. They've been through the National Institute of Health, and they've been through the Patient Centered Institute out of Patient Care Centered, PCORI. And we continue to search for funding that helps this cause. And again, a veteran population is a great example in a target population. And so it fits very nicely into this. And over the years, he has seen many veterans suffer from diabetes. And that's what really brought him to my table when we started talking about Veteran Summit.
Well, we're winding up here. Is there anything that you would like to tell us about maybe what you think is going to happen with from the results of the Homeless Summit, or just your opinion?
Well, our biggest goal was to bring these organizations together so that we can meet the housing needs of the veterans, that we can partner with the social service agencies and the veteran organizations as a conglomerate or a consortium to bring in larger and more federal dollars so we can meet our needs, and also to look at what type of funding. And so the hope, and I believe is going to be very successful, is that we brought across this dialogue. Agencies were interested and want to be part of it, and that the momentum will continue to go forward, and that, like I said, we're already hearing agencies who've never come to me before asking to be part of this process. So yes, I do believe very strongly that we'll be able to secure more funding designated for veterans.
Great.
I'm on the board at Heart House too, and as part of that, I like to see the ability to get the other agencies working together with it, so you get a sort of a first eye view at what's going on there and what their problems are, and I think that going together with other agencies will be very, very helpful.
Dr. Kotke and Gina, I want to thank you for coming on to let us know about your efforts to help veterans with homeless needs.
Thank you, Tim.
That's going to do it for this edition of Today's Veteran. I want to thank our guests today, Dr. Bruce Kotke and Gina Cox and Sarah Meadows. But most of all, I want to thank you for joining us. Remember, for help and information regarding claims, benefits, and services available to veterans and their families, call the Polk County Veteran Service Office at 863-534-5220 or log on to the Polk County website at polk-county.net. I'm your host, Tim Kirkhart, and we'll see you next month.